As part of our meditation this evening, these words from a very special book, A Cup of Tea. Live the truth. Live the truth. For there is no other way to find it. Become the truth. For there is no other way to know it. You cannot know truth through words. You cannot know truth through the scriptures or through learning, study, or contemplation. For truth is within. Truth is in the emptiness within, in the state of no mind. In the mind free of desires, where only awareness is, it is there that truth manifests itself. Truth is within, in the emptiness within, in the state of no mind. In the mind free of desires, where only awareness is, there truth manifests itself. So when we move deeper and deeper into the meditative state, into the state of pure, effortless awareness, moving to that state through the art of witnessing, we find ourselves in the center of our being, where truth resides, the origin of our being. Let us go through witnessing by stepping aside from our body, watching the body breathe, watching the thoughts come and go, watching the senses as they feel, as they see, as they hear, watching all these movements and changes, while knowing, because of our direct contact with that state, that there is a state in which there is no motion and no change. That is the witnessing state. So just watch and feel as the motionless, changeless witness, observing all that moves and changes. 1 minute more. Thank you, Kala Devi. If that flute sounded familiar, it's because some of you have the witnessing CD, and the flute at the beginning of the witnessing process is being played by Andrea Braschfeld, one of the more internationally known flautists in the world, plays jazz also, and this is Kala Devi. I also have 2 very, very powerful readings this evening, and I promise myself, it's always hard for me to keep this promise, but I promise myself I would not comment too much, because the comments usually come unexpectedly through me, and so I have no control over them. But I'm challenging them tonight. I'm going to control you. It's usually Gurji trying to push through, but I'm going to try and be aware of the time, which I usually am not. This first reading, and it doesn't mean these won't be powerful readings for us, even without the commentary. We usually have till 9 o'clock, but there's a special program this evening, beginning at 1:45, so we're stopping a little early. There's a way to read so that a teaching takes place. Not only for you, but the reading is directed by a force that I'm certainly aware of, because sometimes I come here extremely tired from the afternoon program, which today was very intense and important. But it never fails. As soon as I begin to read, it's as though I'm at a gas station and they're filling me with petrol. But that's Gurji's energy that he promised would be there every time satsang took place, not only with me, but with the other teachers at the ashram also. This is an excerpt. I've been reading excerpts to begin with from Gurji's essays. And I read only excerpts because you will hear these excerpts are so powerful. They stay with you for months and months. It's even more important that we highlight certain important statements that he makes. The essay is entitled Karma and Meditation, and it was written way back, October 1963. This ashram was opened July 4th, 1964. And I met Sri Brahmananda only months before, in May 1963. Dick Bruns was already there to welcome me when I showed up, and he did. Karma and meditation. The law of karma is an eternal, inevitable fact of nature. Right away, if you ever had doubts about karma, about even there can't be karma and the law of cause and effect unless there is reincarnation. It's very reassuring. It was almost shocking when I heard from Sri Brahmananda, because I didn't know anything about reincarnation when I first met him. And if I did know something, I didn't believe in it. because it wasn't in my experience. But here is an enlightened being opening by saying, the law of karma is an eternal, inevitable fact of nature. That's it. It exists. Therefore, the present existence of an individual is in accordance with his or her past karma. Karma means action. The present, your present existence and mine is in accordance with our past karma. And in like manner, our future will be decided in accordance with our what? Present karmas. Our current existence is the result of our past karmas, and our future existence will be in accordance with what we do now, in this lifetime. Sri Brahmananda goes on to say, everything is decided by karma, including life, including its character, including the suffering we go through, including our prosperity, our personality, progress. Literally, all things are decided by karma. Now, whether a person is able to remember his past or not, his present life is a direct consequence of that. Whether we remember anything about our past or not, you can be sure how we are, what we think, what we do, how we relate, how we change, how we do not change, all a direct consequence of our past. Generally, people do not recall their past lives, yet memory is not the ultimate reality. No one recalls his birth, yet surely there was a day when each of us was born. Nor can we recall whether we entered this world. This, you have to realize, how many of you never met Sri Brahmananda? Raise your hand. Well, you're going to meet him now. You're already meeting him, and you're going to be hearing his delicious sense of humor right now. Because I looked at it for the 5th time and I laughed again. Because you had to really hear him say it, though. Because he said it with a giggle. He says, nobody recalls his or her birth, yet surely there was a day when each of us was born. Nor can we recall, can you, whether you entered this world feet first or head first? Does anybody know here? If you do, come and tell, he would say. It's not here, but I remember him saying that. Anybody remember you came head first or feet first? If you do, wonderful, come and tell us. But he said you can't, and you don't. Why, even people with wonderful powers of memory may find it impossible to remember what they were doing exactly 5 years ago on the same day and the same month. He left out savants. Savants know, but we can't count them. They might even remember if they came feet first. They remember dates. They don't remember what else happened. They do remember dates. Memory, therefore, is merely a part of our knowledge, a part of our consciousness. It's hardly the whole of it. Nevertheless, and I'm going to alert you at the end of this, Gurji was never happy unless everybody left this room after hearing both these readings, another one from another master, he was never happy unless everyone here discovered something new or heard something new, something that was life transforming. Because otherwise he would say, what's the use? Why bother to drive all the way here and sleep in a room that might be a little chilly tonight or overheated? We don't have it exactly down pat yet. But there are some hardships when you come here. The driving, the expenses, the facilities, they're not what we want them to be and hope they will be one day. But you're here. You're here. So it shouldn't be a waste of your time. Something important should happen every time you attend satsang or any of the classes. Something that is revolutionary, that you will never forget. And even if you forget it, it has already started its work as a seed that's been planted in you. We had an extremely interesting and passionate session this afternoon, and everyone was shaking her head, what happened? Because it didn't happen in words. It happened in some direct transmission that took place. And it should be happening again with these powerful words. So I will be asking you, if anything struck you as unusually exciting or surprising to you. Memory, therefore, is merely a part of our knowledge and consciousness. It's hardly the whole of our knowledge and consciousness. Nevertheless, one may be able to infer particulars about one's past life from the tendencies of this present one. And surely one ought to be capable of judging the future by considering the nature and the scope of his or her present activities. How we're behaving, how we're thinking, what we are doing, how we are spending our time is already designing, creating the future for us, for better or for worse. Therefore, now Gurji comes out of the creative process which has been involved in this. I was looking for just the right terminology to bring it to the practical level for each one of us. This has been fascinating. We're listening to the language of an enlightened being, which is always extraordinary, changing in itself, changing us, just by the words, by the vibration. But now he's giving instructions, what to do. If you feel lost, if you're feeling that nothing is really changing in your life, and nothing looks as though it will change anytime soon, it feels like, as my friend Hanuman would say, the same old, going on over and over again. Virji to the rescue. Nevertheless, one may be able to infer particulars. In fact, in other words, to understand what has led to your present life. So you may understand without remembering that something happened from the past. Through inference you get it. And surely one ought to be capable of judging the future, knowing what future is coming, by considering the nature and the scope of our present activities. Therefore, if a man or a woman is serious, that's always something that got our attention. If you're serious about your life, you're serious about ending suffering in your life. If you are serious and a critical observer, man, which includes women, man can correctly explore all three phases of life: past, present, and future. It is the present that holds the key to understanding all of one's karmas. For this reason, we must take great and special care in scrutinizing one's present tendencies. That's quite enough for tonight from this paper. I'll read the last line again. It is the present that holds the key to understanding all of one's karmas. And it is for this reason one must take great care in scrutinizing one's present tendencies. I warned you I'm going to ask you that question. There's enough in here. Dick Bruns has been attending thousands of programs. He came, what year did you come, Dick? Not to the ashram. The ashram was open in 1964. But when did you meet Virji? 1959. And he's still coming to programs, which means, like myself, like Dharmadev, we've been coming since 1963. He was 4 years ahead of us. We never tire of these. And they're always new. And they're always exciting. Why? Because we're not free yet. Not completely. He's helped us. We're not as bound, as burdened, as a victim of our minds as we were when we came. It's only taken 45 years. But we know that the answers lie with these enlightened beings, these teachers. So he wouldn't be happy unless at least one person volunteered a statement, at least saying that there was something new in here for you. Doesn't have to be transformative. We don't know that right away. That comes later. But first, we have to be a little surprised, a little astonished by learning something new. I don't want the first hand to be Dick Burns, because I could hear him say, I learned something new after 49 years. What did you learn? I learned something new. I told you, I learn every time I read something. Yes, Gina. No, not too much information. Just what you said is important. You learn. There's a lot bothering us, so we don't want to add genius to. Each one of us has something bothering us tonight. But what's important, Gina said it, is that even in therapy, if you go, I've never been through therapy, but I guess our whole life is a form of therapy. Our life teaches us. But I was a stress therapist, so I was around therapists, psychotherapists, for at least 6 years in this clinic where I worked. And I know that they always concentrate on the past, trying to bring up what could have happened as a child that you're having panic attacks, that you're doing this and this and this, that. It's very hard because it's a mystery. It's going into the dark to look for clues. And it takes forever when you're investigating the past. But if we can instantly see by our present behavior that what we're doing now has to be a result of what happened to us in the past, then as Gurji said, we can infer what happened. And that's much more satisfying than not knowing. Isn't that right? But he says at the end, thank you, Gina, by the way, if we're serious, if we're critical observers, if we're really skilled in the art of witnessing, we should be able to explore all three phases of life, the past, the present, and future, by being wide awake, not shunning it, not escaping from it, not avoiding it, but looking at the behavior of our personality. Question, when does it become easier to look at the personality with all its weaknesses and all its qualities that are very upsetting to us at times? These conditioned behaviors that we get into as a personality. When does it become easier? Now, some of you have been around for a while. Should know that. John, you know? When is it easier to look at behavior without having a sense of humiliation or shame or embarrassment or whatever comes? John says, when you trust everyone else around you, this is true, that they're not going to be hard on you, right? But come closer to you. Kala? Kala says, when you're detached from what's happening, and how does that happen? You're absolutely right. Kala knows that there are only two answers that I accept. Either witnessing or ego, you know. And she guessed that witnessing fits in better here. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, well, if trusting that it can change, and it can only change if you allow it to change without trying to force it or demanding, which we do when we are identifying. A very good example of that, promise not to comment so much. My last comment. A very good example of this. How many of you have children here? Okay. Anybody have grandchildren? Raise your hand, Karen. Grandchildren, Dick Burns. When you have a child with you, and the child throws a temper tantrum, as mine did in a department store when he was 4, you can watch your reactions because it's your child. If another person's child has a temper tantrum and is banging his head on the floor of Bloomingdale's with crowds of people watching, and you know, whatever you do as a mother is no good. When you stop him or force him to stop, or you let him continue to bang his head, whatever you do is no good from people watching. But it's very interesting to see how different our reactions are when we see a child of another mother having the same behavior go on. We're not nearly as upset because we're not identifying with that child. We're not saying, oh, it's my child, blocking the escalator because he wants to go on for the 97th time. He blocked the escalator. People were stepping over him to get on the escalator. He was about 3, I think, 2.5, 3. And it became a very good example for me later on. When you don't identify with that personality, that body-mind entity that's behaving, then you don't need so much the support of others, because you're able to detach from it and see clearly, much more clearly than when you're emotionally involved, what to do or what not to do. And grandmothers, I won't say they'd be calm in Bloomingdale's, but at home, they can tolerate so much more from their grandchildren than they could from their children. About their children's baby, right? You know, I hope you're not a grandmother, but maybe you loved your grandmother? Yeah. See? That's the reason. I don't know, I felt you were connecting with what I was saying. But grandmothers can love unconditionally, because after all, they didn't raise you. If that's your behavior, I didn't do that. I raised you, but I never raised you to raise your daughter like that. So it's easier when you're not identified with that. So the more you witness, the more you can step aside from the activity, the behavior, the reaction, and not judge it so harshly. Because poor thing, I always say about this body-mind entity, when something causes it to go out of order, poor thing, you know, you're doing the best you can, considering where you came from, doing wonderfully well. I say that nowadays. Hafiz has a beautiful poem. You haven't danced so badly, my sweet, crushed angel. Such a beautiful poem. I'm going to read it at the benefit. I'm having a benefit for the Cosmic Temple. I'm going to choose that one because it could have been Hafiz was talking to someone else, but I relate to the way we feel about ourselves, considering our background, considering the hurt, the betrayals that have occurred in our lives. Don't you think we're doing well? Nod your head. Seriously. Seriously. So this is only one page of a longer essay, but you saw how much came out of it.